Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Son of a Blitch podcast. I'm your host, George Blitch, and I just got done with an amazing conversation with Jean-Paul Bourgeois, the host and creator of Duck Camp Dinners. You've probably seen him in a lot of different places over the last few years, but right now, Duck Camp Dinners is being released episode by episode. They have done 4 episodes, and I interviewed him right now. They got 2 more episodes left. You guys have to tune into this. It's an amazing show, taking you all throughout Louisiana, the culture, the cuisine, the hunting lifestyle, and just connecting with all sorts of amazing people. It is not to be missed. It's so educational, entertaining, informative, and I just absolutely love this show. I had Jean-Paul before on the podcast when he was right at the very beginning stages of about to go and do the filming for Duck Camp Dinner season 3. And, as I said too, it's now being released. Already season 4 is in the works. And we talked a little bit about, the show and what's to come with that, and a lot of the history of that. What's going on in his life right now. We had so many different things we covered. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. Jean-Paul is just a wonderful, wonderful person. I love his heart. He's a great guy, and it was just a wonderful time sitting down and chatting with him. So, guys, without any further ado, here is my interview with Chef Jean-Paul Bourgeois. Y'all enjoy, and make sure you go check out Duck Camp Dinners season 3 right now. Enjoy. Welcome back, Jean-Paul. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm good. I would say I'm enjoying the Florida weather right now, but it's been overcast and cloudy for the last 2 weeks. Seeing a bright, shiny face like yourself is certainly a reason to get up in the morning and put your boots on. So
Oh, cheers, man. Well, thank you. It's really good to have you back. I'm excited. Of course, you've moved further than the last time we hung out and last time we did this in person. Let's start with that, man. You've got a recent journey over to Florida. Talk to me a little bit about that.
yeah, we're in the panhandle of Florida right now, in Gulf Breeze specifically, and I think it's really simple. It's not really for work or anything like that. Our son is 2.5 years old. We have another one on the way any moment. And we just thought while he's not in school, let's just kind of live by the beach for a couple years and see what happens. So we basically put like a 2 year clock on Florida, and we'll look at it after 2 years and say, do we want to stay here? Do we want to leave? Do we want to go back to Texas? Do we want to do something else? And, we love Texas. I mean, I love Texas. My wife's from Texas. It's actually, I tell this to people all the time. It's it's kind of the perfect place. It's hard to make any argument against living in Texas. It sometimes almost feels too easy to live in Texas. And so I'm used to growing up in Louisiana where the roads suck, the school system suck. There's hurricanes every day, every year, it seems. And so, it gives you a little more difficult, a little harder times, a little grit. But for real, we love the beach. We wanted to raise our son, and who knows what this next one's going to be, by the beach for at least a couple years, and just feel it out. Like if we were permanent beach people, or we just really love it. So we'll see at 2 years, but right now we're just enjoying Florida.
That's awesome. And now I heard you just say we'll see. So you guys don't know if it's a boy or girl yet. It's gonna be a surprise.
We don't. We keep it a surprise. We kept our first son as a surprise, and this one is no different. And I for months I was like, this is going to be a girl. I can feel it. I'm having these like visions of it being a girl. But over the last month, that's kind of changed in me, and it all had to do with this lady in Publix who stopped us while we were grocery shopping, and she looked at my wife and said, "Oh, congratulations, it's definitely a boy." And my wife was like, "Well, we actually don't know, we're keeping it a surprise." She's like, "Honey, I know that's a boy." And I was like, "Oh, it's a boy." So it's been in my mind, and really playing with my emotions there ever since that lady stopped us in Publix. But we'll see, man. Obviously healthy baby, healthy mama, that's what you want. And I love the idea of having a daddy's girl and raising a little girl, even though it also scares the crap out of me.
I
I also
understand.
love the idea of my son having a best friend and a brother, and so on. So I don't see any way you can go wrong there. So, like I said, healthy baby, healthy mama. That's what we're praying for.
Yeah, indeed, man. Well, we're praying for you too, and I know everything is going to go perfectly well. So I'm very excited for you
Thank,
and your
thank you.
wife and your son there, man. It's going to be great. And you know what? Duck Camp camo works great whether it's a boy or a girl on the wall, right?
That's
It's the
right.
wallpaper. It's
That's right.
universal. It's universal.
Yeah,
Well,
to me, yeah, camo is non-gender associated, right? Like you wear it, boy, girl, whatever. Go for it.
Indeed, indeed. Well, let's jump into that, man, because we're right in the middle of Duck Camp Dinners season 3. I know episode 4 just dropped. We got 5 and 6 left. I mean, talk to me a little bit about this. Last time we were chatting, I think you were days away from going and beginning filming. How's everything been going since it's been coming out? What kind of reception has it been like so far? And then we'll kind of dive into some episodes a little bit.
Yeah, man. Thanks. It's been great. This was our first steps into 44-minute episodes. Just more of a commitment to us developing content that was grippier, had some tangible elements to it, whether that's elements or whether that's recipes or conservation. We just want people to really rest in the show and watch it and better watch it again because there was so much there. And so this was our step into those really longer format videos compared to season 1 and 2. And I think, there's, you battle in your mind this tension behind, people want these faster things and everybody's pushing shorts and reels and so on. And in a lot of ways that's also tempting, but we kind of want to be the counterweight to some of those programming, even the 22-minute programming of having something deeper that you can say, all right, son, daughter, wife, whatever, it's time to watch Duck Camp Dinners. Let's have this hour together to watch it and let it be like something really high quality and really quality in terms of what you're getting out of it. So that was really important to us. Like you said, we are just dropped episode 4 on Monday, and 5 will come out. 5 and 6 are hard hitters. What ended up happening is we had originally said we were going to film 7 episodes. And then as we started cutting down the show, we said to ourselves, well, we even need to make more 22-minute episodes or make these into full 44 minutes because we just have too much stuff. There's nothing I hate more than getting to the edit and having all this footage on the cutting room floor and not most people, that footage goes to lay waste in some coffin somewhere. We knew that footage was too good to lay in a coffin. We wanted to bring it to life in the show. So there goes 44 minutes. And what we kind of saw is that what we thought was 7, right? 30 minutes or 22 minutes is really 6, 44 minutes. And so the last 2 really get, they're a lot. It's a lot going on in the last 2 episodes. And I'm really excited for people to see those. It's going to be good. Great guest on the shows on season 3, but especially in 5 and 6. Great hunting, great cooking. It really checks a lot of buckets on these next 2 episodes.
Well, I definitely want to run back to the first 4, but let's just talk now because right now, when this drops, you're going to have the next 2 up there. So let's go ahead and give some teasers. What are 5 and 6 looking like? Where'd you go on those 2? Who are some of the guests, and what can we kind of tell? Just kind of build some anticipation because I know if people haven't already jumped in, I know a lot have. I'm seeing those numbers, those views, man. It's popular, of course, but just as far as kind of letting up, hey, what's on the horizon with these last 2 here?
Yeah, so episode 5 is filmed in the most northwest section of the state in Shreveport, right on the, really close to that Texas border, really close to that Arkansas border. And it's a place that I didn't hunt at all growing up or even in my adult years. And what happens is that Red River also flows through Oklahoma or Arkansas, but Oklahoma and all that stuff. But flows right through the heart of Shreveport. And we get to hunt with a family that's been there since the 1800s with some country music singers that are Grammy Award winners and really just in some special places that I had no idea existed, much less the waterfowl hunting that existed in that area. So it's going to be really great just to shine a light on that part of the state and really show like all the good things that have come out of that little section of the northwest corner of the state. And then in episode 6, we head down the Red River and into the upper and middle Atchafalaya Basin. So right around Simonsport, Louisiana, the Red River turns into the Atchafalaya River. We hunt with Dale Bordelon a little bit in Avoyelles Parish, who is just a Cajun treasure. He Bayou Beast duck calls. He calls pirogues. He does a lot of things, and everything that he does, or most things he does, is really in the old ways of waterfowl hunting and Louisiana culture. Then we just follow that river, that Red River, down to the Atchafalaya River and get into the Atchafalaya Basin, where we spend time on Lake Martin around Breaux Bridge in Louisiana and doing some stuff with wood duck boxes and more music. And as you know by now, the show I really love music in the show. My editor really loves music in the show. It's something that we intentionally make sure is really great in the show. And so these just next 2 episodes it brings the music side of the show even more to life than ever before. And it's going to be good for all those folks that really like, for all those, everybody knows like Louisiana is largely known for its food. And it's known for its music. Like if you population tested a lot of folks around the country, they would say food and music, right? And for the outdoorsmen, we know the outdoors kind of culture is really great and so on. But if you really like food and music and then can tolerate good hunting, these next 2 episodes are really going to sit well with you, I think.
Well, I was going to mention as far as the music, I've been thoroughly impressed in the first 4 episodes. I mean, just in even, season 1 and 2, there's so much culture of rich hunting, cooking culture, music, and it all fuses together. And, even in like episode, right, 2, you bring in Jim Ceasar, who is a friend of yours, who is an amazing, talented musician and artist. And I was kind of curious too, like, how did you guys first link up? And then we'll kind of jump into some of the other guests you have as well, because there's a lot of highlights of some really amazing people in there too. And I was kind of curious how you chose those and how you maybe crossed the paths with them.
Yeah, I didn't choose that. That was, call it fate, call it God chose those people, including Jesse in episode 3. Yep. I found Jim. I heard one of his songs. It might have been on Spotify. It might have been on Instagram. And I'm like, to be frank with you, there's a lot of hip hop in the waterfowl world right now that I'm like, that's kind of cheesy, but cool. I'm glad you're doing something you love. That's my personal opinion. But with him, it struck different for me. It felt like real. Maybe he's from Louisiana. And so he was rapping and singing about things that I knew in my life. I grew up listening to rap music. My life, I used to blackmail my sister into going and buy me parental advisory CDs in college because she smoked cigarettes, and I would tell my mom that she smoked cigarettes if she didn't buy me this Lil Wayne album, this Juvenile album, this Big Timers album, or so on. So I have that connection with that, even though I may not look like that. So when I heard his music, that kind of felt fresh to me and real. Then I realized the kid's 24 years old. Mm-hmm. He is wise and mature amongst his years. I mean, I figured he was 30, but 24. And then you start getting to know him and his story and his walk with his faith and his life. I was just inspired by him. And so I felt that God put him in my path, in my life for a reason. I wanted to highlight hip hop's place in Louisiana music culture and in a way that resonated with me. And so he just was an obvious choice to have that conversation with. And he was a great person to have at camp. And so that was Jim. And then that was actually episode 1. Episode 2, who was episode 2 might not have had a guest. Why am I? Oh, Brad Eldridge, right? So yep. Brad Eldridge, another guy that I mean, I just feel like I just ran into out of nowhere. We ended up having a lot of things in common, and he's become a good friend of mine. So, and it became obvious when we were talking about the northeast section of the state in Tinsall Parish and where he was from. Again, never hunted there, never been up that way. I maybe crossed through there when passing on I-20, east or west, but that was it. And so have him as the expert to really speak on that area was important. And then for the first time, we bring outsiders into our duck camp in Terrebonne Parish, and that's Jesse Griffiths, who, of course, I see his books, 3 of his books behind you there, and then Dirk Sorrells from Boss Shotshells. And I got to tell you, that was awesome to see too, because on the first 2 episodes, we had been going places and trying to see those cultures, those camps, those food, those people through the eyes of those people. And then in episode 3, Dirk and Jesse got to see our camp, through our own eyes. Right. And so to kind of have that moment with them. And of course, Jesse shared a killer duck lasagna recipe. Boss Shotshells has been an incredible supporter of not just me, but duck camp dinners. And you can't find a better, I mean, I've never talked to a company that was, had such a positive and organically good ethos to them than Boss Shotshells. And so not only they create a great product, obviously, but they're just seriously, they're just great humans. Again, Dirk and I crossed paths out of being at the same fishing camp 2 years ago in Venice, Louisiana. And that's how we got our conversation started. I had no intention of ever, I didn't know how to get in touch with Boss Shotshells, and I didn't know who Dirk was until that time. So again, these people come into our lives, they make their marks, and you got to decide what to do with those relationships. And it just feels like those relationships weren't by chance; they were for a reason. And so that's where they come in as guests.
Well, and I can definitely echo the sentiment of Boss Shotshells being amazing. After we had our original podcast where you came on, I reached out to them to grab their logo and some stuff. I was going to put in some things, the sponsors you worked with, Slap Your Mama. And so when I talked to Boss Shotshells, they ended up sending me some ammo to try out, and I use that all exclusively in this last year. Dove and quail hunting and turkey hunting. Everyone who fired on turkey, any shot was perfect unless we messed it up. But amazing ammo. I can't say enough about them. I've got some more left for these next few weeks of getting some dove in there too, and I'm going to be placing an order for some more. They are amazing. I definitely suggest people check them out. And you as far as teaming up with some folks too. This is one that, we talked about this in the first podcast too, but Louisiana Board of Tourism, is it that you ended up teaming up with and, was a kind of a key sponsor here too? Who are some other folks that you're working with in this, in season 3 here?
Yeah. So Office of Tourism and Explore Louisiana has been a great partner. They really came in and took the weight of that budget and supported it. And for good reason. I want more people. I want that people that watch this show to say, hey, we got to go down to Louisiana and get in on this. Or we got to, New Orleans, great, but let's get out of New Orleans as well and see some of the other places as well. And that's a true wish of mine for people that watch Duck Camp Dinners. And so having that communication with the Office of Tourism, I think we just very much aligned on that message to everybody that watched the show. As far as other sponsors, Boss, great. We mentioned them. They came in and just was like, what do you need? And let's make it happen. And we continue to have a great relationship. Slap Your Mama and Jack Walker, which I see back there as well. Again, it's so important to represent Louisiana in ways that are organic and so on and so forth. Not organic, but authentic, I should say.
Yeah.
Slap is a brand that's been in Louisiana households, including my own, for a decade now. And so having them a part of the show when they didn't need to be, because they were going to be in it anyway, right? They didn't need to be a brand partner and sponsor it for a monetary value. They had their place, but they believed in the show in a way that meant more to them than just like product integration. And then lastly, ConocoPhillips and DU, that ConocoPhillips brand, so widely known for their oil and gas footprint in Louisiana and Texas. But what they do for the coastal marshes in Louisiana and coastal conservation in coordination with Ducks Unlimited is incredible. And that's one of the things you're going to see in episode 6. We talk a lot about this in conservation. It's not a bridge being built. You can't see it go up for years, then cross it and be like, that's where my tax dollars are going. That's making my life a lot easier, getting me from point A to point B. Coastal conservation and marsh development is something that is only seen if you're out in the water, you're an oysterman, you're a shrimper, you're fishing redfish in coastal marsh. The public, your tax dollars, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And it was important to me to shine a light on all those, because you get a lot of state and federal grants and these huge projects, and everything is needed, right? There's not one Band-Aid to this problem. It takes big and small. And I'm not saying ConocoPhillips and DU's projects are small, but to some of the federal grant money, federal projects, they kind of are. But they're targeting these little, really like micro sections in the marsh that are having direct impacts on people's lives. So like people's camps, fishing camps, hunting camps, people's when you live on the coastal edges of Louisiana, like Thibodaux, like Lafourche Parish, Southern Lafourche Parish, Southern Terrebonne Parish, Southern Plaquemines Parish, St. Mary's Parish, the list goes on and on. They have these little projects in and out of all those little marshes that are building land, sections and sections at a time, and eventually going to connect and so on and so forth. And so, again, like, you just can't say enough about them because, obviously they supported the show, but they believe that Duck Camp Dinners had a message to better get out into the world and help tell their message, which I love to do. Is I think we love these places. We love our little floating camp, just like folks in Venice love their camps in Grand Isle and so on. But it takes not even a village, a multifaceted city to make sure those places exist for generations. And that means marsh development and land restoration and marsh restoration. And those things are rarely seen by the public from the outside. It takes shows like mine and dedicated media to say, here's where your tax dollars are going, and this is why it's important to continue doing things like that. Because I'm 40 years old. I grew up doing these things, and I'm highlighting Duck Camp Dinners. It's important to me that my son has the same opportunities. That does not happen without thousands and millions of people in Louisiana to play in their part. ConocoPhillips and DU is one of those folks. So, again, you can hear that how important conservation is to me. Not just waterfowl. That's important. Waterfowl, but wetlands conservation, marsh, coastal restoration conservation. I often say in Louisiana, it's one of the few places that I really see wildlife and humans living in that same habitat, in that same ecosystem. We share it in a lot of ways. There's not a lot of places that when I grew up, I could get out of bed, get in the truck with my dad, and be in a swamp in 5 minutes if I wanted to, 20 minutes to go duck hunting. And it's like right there. Like, I love Texas, but how long does it take you to get anywhere in Texas?
Right. A long time. Yeah.
It's a long time. It's just as great as that state is, it doesn't always have like the accessibleness that Louisiana has to the outdoors. And a lot of reason for that is because right there where humans live, the wildlife butt up and they kind of cross as well. And you're hunting in a lot of your places that 10 minutes from where you play T-ball, And so it's just one of those places, man. And it's worth fighting for, and it's worth finding those partners that are going to help you message that fight as well.
It's super important, man. The education, awareness, and bringing it to everybody and letting them know what they can do and how they can join and be a part, because we all collectively do something. We're all collectively leaving something better for our future generations, our kids, grandkids, 7 generations down the line. And I think that's a key thing and a key component. And obviously you have the entertainment factor as well. So it's like everything is, all the boxes are checked. Again, it's just an amazing show. Every year you guys have been building it bigger and better, and I can't wait to see what's on the future horizon. When you were talking about conservation in marsh areas, it made me think about how I think it was August, I was driving back from New England and came through Louisiana. We were coming back through Florida, in our last little stretch. And I remember they said, "Oh, there's some wildfires that are hitting pretty hard," and then they had died down, and so we decided to, continue on I-10. Well, right when we came through, as soon as we hit the Louisiana border, we start seeing these messages and stuff, and it had jumped across I-10. Luckily, I was in my truck. I ended up, flipping a U-turn in the middle of the median there, which, was probably, a little questionable in and of itself. But we ended up, doubling back and kind of going the long way around because they shut down that fire across the I-10. But I know that it left a ton of devastation along that way. And I was just kind of curious if you had any updates and friends and boots on the ground to talk about maybe how that restoration, or there's some projects and things that are going on to kind of help those areas that were kind of hit hard during that fire.
Yeah, I mean, that it's pretty well. The drought did a lot of things to Louisiana. The wildfires is one of them. And as I said in that episode 1, we almost couldn't shoot an episode because of those fires. Like, actually, camp caught on fire that we were going to, and the adjacent property. The thing about those droughts and all those areas where there's fires, a lot of ag. So it was a lot of clear cut grass that was just dried out. And so once that caught, it just spread throughout these different agricultural components. And unless you got up into like sugarcane fields where it was green, it wouldn't stop it. Yep. And so a lot of people's, especially in West Louisiana, where there's still a lot of ranching. Nothing like Texas or Florida even, but still a fair amount of ranching. Like those people's, and I didn't know anything about this actually, and I had to be educated on this as well. But people's stockpile of hay that they use throughout the season, I guess they cut during the spring and summer, and then they bundle, and then they keep that hay to feed cattle and other horses and other livestock throughout the season. All of that had burned up with those things, and so now they're trying to figure out how they're going to feed livestock throughout the fall and winter months without that kind of regenerative, I guess, food that they've constantly done. So, unfortunately, I don't have any big updates aside for I think in some ways Louisiana's felt that, oh, this was just another thing like Katrina and Rita were and Ida, is that it was gonna catch 24, 48 hours of news cycle, and then people were gonna move past it. And from a national point of view, maybe a little sour about it not getting the type of coverage that it should have. And I'm not sure if those folks got state assistance or federal assistance. I can't recall if the governor mandated a state emergency on that. But the thing is like it was so many different pockets from North Louisiana, West Louisiana to the east to north of the lake. There was things in not Mandeville, but right where north of New Orleans, where it kind of butts up into Mississippi, the top of that foot, if you will. Mm-hmm. So there was just, when you looked at the things, and then there was all the crawfish industry being drained, and that being a big old thing. I mean, the drought just touched a lot of different industry. In fact, I would say the wildfires probably caused the least amount of damage in the sense of all the other industry that it touched, crawfish being a big one. Sure. But of course and now this season, it's like nothing happened. It's gotten the most rain. It's like all flooding again. Right. So it's just wild, I guess, but that's Mother Nature, right? Like that's, we're always so shocked and surprised by some of the things, but I often ask myself, should we be? I mean, it's Mother Nature. Like, of course she's going to give us something that was unexpected, and it was like, where did the hell this come from? Like generational drought that nobody ever has history of. Sure. Let's just like fold that into some random year. And here we are. We're back this year with a ton of water and water levels back to Louisiana's, gross amount. So,
Well, I was kind of thinking about when you were talking about how, heavy rainfall and how things are going. There's like I think it was like you said, maybe 2 years ago, there was an area, I think you talked about it in season 3, where there's like whistling ducks, where there's very few. And then like last year, there was a little bit more. And then this year, I mean, that footage, y'all are inundated. And, I was kind of curious if that is, as far as like different species and things that you're seeing in different places. I see that on my ranch. There's every few years, there's like an introduction of a new animal. I'm like, oh, okay, we have badgers now. Never seen them the 42 years before, but the last 3 years we've seen them. And then there's just different things and conditions which will bring back certain types of animals, maybe jackrabbits or whatever. And I'm just speaking into Texas, but I was kind of, I was a little surprised that when you guys talked about that, inundation, how many of them you guys saw there. And, also around that time too, how many banded ducks you guys got in that, little episode. I think there was 5, right?
Five.
Jeez.
Three that were documented, and then 5 from the other hunters that didn't have a camera crew with them. Yeah, look, I mean, waterfowl is funny that way. I mean, there was a time where speckled belly geese didn't migrate to Louisiana, and Louisiana got lessers and graders and Greater Canada geese and more snow geese and so on. And then that migration switched, and now we get a fair amount of speckled belly geese. You hear that throughout generations of waterfowl hunters, especially, I mean, all around Louisiana, about, used to have a much broader kind of spectrum of waterfowl in Louisiana. And now, the mallards and the widgeons and the pintails, they've all kind of seeing much less numbers. And now we're getting more speaking to Terrebonne Parish, where we hunt a lot more ringnecks, blue-winged teal, and then most recently black-belly whistling ducks. And there's always, you're always in your like everybody has their story of back in the day, like things were so much better. And our children will say that about us, right? Like my dad used to go hunt and they kill 5 bands a hunt, and that, of course, that's only happened once, right? Like, but I think it's just, again, with Mother Nature, it's just again with migrating species, and I can't speak to like the badger thing, but to your point, like Mother Nature will do what she kind of wants. Of course, we have our way that we can maybe influence that to a certain extent, right? Like, I'm not going to get into the political stuff about that, but certainly those things change. I think one of the things that we kind of look at, that I've really been looking at in more specifically, is waterfowl hunting over rice fields in Louisiana. And so, like, I love rice farmers, I love sugarcane farmers, I love crawfish farmers. There's no, what I'm about to say has no, doesn't relate to how I feel about them or anything like that. It's just the facts of it all, is that, rice doesn't get good money anymore. Crawfish gets great money.
Mm-hmm.
So you convert your rice farms to crawfish farms, making sure that's your primary farm, if you will. And then you farm some rice, and that'll, do whatever. That's just supplemental income for a lot of farmers these days that have owned rice fields for generations. Well, ducks hate crawfish ponds. They're clear, they're just not good duck habitats. And so there's this rub, right, of like, okay, well, I'm reducing habitat for waterfowl, for wildlife, it's for farms. Okay, put that aside. Now you get rice harvests that are not only the most efficient they've ever been. Now, this is across Louisiana and Arkansas. You have the same concerns in Arkansas, where there's big rice farms, big speckled belly and waterfowl farms, habitats. And so not only is the harvesting of that rice more efficient, so it's leaving less rice on the ground, but we're genetically modifying rice now to be more resistant to pesticides or pests and weather. And what they've done, the science on that now is waterfowl, ducks can tell the difference. They know what rice to eat and what not. And so it's a lot of these new hybrid forms of rice that are much better for the farmers are, again, it's another layer of reducing habitat for wildlife and waterfowl specifically. And so again, like, they got to make their living. They're going to do what they got to do. No qualms about that. But there is there's some cause and effect here that we're really not talking about in terms of wildlife management and waterfowl specifically. And so those are things that, who knows what's happening in other places. Like, I'm just speaking really specifically to South Louisiana. And that obviously has an effect, right? The thing is, less food, less water. That's what waterfowl needs: food, water. If you got food and water, you're likely going to find birds on your property. If the water that they want to be in starts to disappear and the food that they want to eat starts to disappear, well, what do you think is going to happen, right? Like, that's just wild life, right? They're gonna find food and water, and the right food and water they need for survival. So, anyways, it's a what do you do? You know, I mean, you try to make, what do you do? Well, you go out there, you hunt, you make the best of the day that you have. You live in the moment. You enjoy the people you're around you. You don't count on the hunt, right? And that's a big part of duck camp dinners is like, I say this to a lot of young hunters, and they ask me, like, you know, how do you get into this business? How do you duck hunt the way you do? And really the answer is that you don't depend on the hunting. You don't depend on the ducks being there. You depend on the people you're around to support this habit, this lifestyle of yours, because those are the people. That's the reason you're going to come back every year to the duck camp or the deer camp or the pheasant camp or the salmon camp, is that it's the people you're with, you know, because you're down. You will have those down years. You will have when the migration sucks, it just doesn't get cold, or hurricanes blow in salt water and kill all natural vegetation. Those are all real life things. So stick with people that you want to be in the blind with, whether you're shooting birds or not, and you'll likely have a long kind of lifestyle or longevity or career, even maybe, and whatever your pursuit is. So.
Sure. No, well said, man. Well said. You know, while we're kind of talking about the topic of waterfowl here, and especially this last, you know, summer was a very special one. The Delta waterfowl was kind of in your home state, and I know you're a part of that. Well, talk to me a little bit about, you know, your association with them and what you did this summer during their big expo and convention.
Yeah. So Delta waterfowl, you know, the two big wetlands and waterfowl conservations, Ducks Unlimited and Delta waterfowl. I support both. I'm a member of both. I do both. I think both are necessary. They both tackle different buckets. But really, I've grown to really know Delta waterfowl in my later years as a hunter, because Ducks Unlimited has had such a big presence in Louisiana. But these ways, I'm really seeing all the efforts that are going into what Delta waterfowl has been up to. So yes, in Baton Rouge, in July was their national convention. It'll be in Oklahoma City next year. And, you know, this was our opportunity to really connect with a lot of folks. Obviously, we have a strong following in Louisiana of people who watch the show. And so it was our opportunity to get in there, boots on the ground, and connect with folks that watch the show. And literally, man, what we did, I had 9 duck calls to sell that were made by Brad Eldridge Parish Waterfowl, and that essentially paid for my grocery bill. That was my goal. I was like, if I can sell all these duck calls, you know, I can make $1,000 to pay for this grocery bill. So that's what happened. Paid for my $1,000 grocery bill, didn't pay for my $1,000 Bourgeois meat market bill, but that's fine. I was fine with that. And our goal was just, we really wanted to create this space, this camp within this space. And that's what we did. We designed it. We bought pallets in and built a wall of pallets, and we hung all of our, you know, old artwork and mounts and stuff like that. We had couches and places, and we just fed people, man. We didn't charge anybody for it. We really wanted this space at the convention to be a place you can come hang out, grab a cold drink, get a bite to eat, chat, and then move on. Maybe circle back. And dude, it was awesome to see. I didn't pick my head up all Saturday. So I don't actually know how busy it was, although I heard it was the biggest attendance of Delta Waterfowl's, convention history. So that's great, obviously. But man, I get hundreds of messages weekly, whether that's Instagram or YouTube, through my website, all 99.9% extremely positive, but nothing beats getting to shake somebody's hand, telling them thank you for supporting the show, for watching the show, for sharing the show. And at the end of the day, like, when you're so grassroots and you don't have big money behind you to create these seasons, you go out and grind and try to find these partnerships. It's those folks that are watching the show, commenting, engaging with it, and sharing with it, that gives us the resources and tools to go out and talk to these brands about, here's who you're reaching. These are real people that are going to resonate with your brand because, we're integrating this product very authentically because this is what we do. Like, this is the brands that already exist. I actually was talking to my friend Jay Scheck the other day, and I was like, we're right now fundraising for season 4. And I looked at him. I didn't look at him. I called him and I said, man, when you look in your man cave in your shed where the decoys are hanging and your mud boat is and your work tools are, and you think about the camp and you do a 180 with your eyes, like, what are those things that you see? Like coffee, spices, cast iron, different cooking thing, decoys, rigging equipment, chainsaws, like those are the folks that we want to engage with, because those are the things that we use naturally all the time. Nothing that we're going to use in the show doesn't belong there. So, that's a narrow space, like if that's going to be the lens you look at partnerships through. But I think it's the right space because it's finding people. Like Boss is just a great example of this. Slappy Mile is a great example. It's just like believe in the show so much that they invest in it because they want to see it continue. That's a powerful thing. Like, it's not because they know it's going to trickle down and flow through $5,000 of sales, $100,000 of sales. I don't know. It's because they want to see the show continue. And that's their investment, because this show, which I was completely unprepared for 5 years ago, means that much to individuals and brands alike, that it continues. And so we have people that want to invest in it for that reason.
Man, well, I think it goes hand in hand too. And you talk about that, you mentioned 2 words earlier, organic and authenticity. And I think that those both lead to itself. They're not this forced thing where it's like, round peg, square hole kind of thing. These are products, these are companies that you're already supporting, you've already done work with, and they want to definitely be a part of this. And you're always, every season is growing more, it seems, and more of those right people are coming together, whether that's a divine thing, whether it's just like a mindset thing. Hey, I want to be a part of this. And it's apparent, man, and I'm really excited to see where this grows. Do you have some ideas about what envisioning now about season 4, what you'd like to do, what some of the things you might like to focus on and build from what you've done? Is there some areas that you really want to focus on and shine some light on that maybe haven't before within Louisiana? Like, just talk to me about how are you kind of viewing that? I know you're kind of still in the middle of, putting out stuff for season 3, but, as far as looking forward and, duck season upon us soon, what does that look like for you, and how are you envisioning that moving forward?
Yeah. Look, George, I started working on season 4 on January 23rd. My last day of hunting was January 20th. My son's birthday, actually, my last day of hunting was 19th. My son's birthday is the 20th. And then we celebrated for a couple of days, and I went right back to work before the end of January. This show takes a full year at least to make. This is not like a lot of other shows. So it takes an intentional grind to do that. We got to fund season 4. Like that's what I've been planting seeds around that for months now. We're finally in conversations where we'll get a sense of where season 4, what we can do for season 4. Maybe it's 6 episodes. Maybe it's 1 documentary. Maybe it's 3. I don't know yet. Again, this is why all those people watching and listening right now to share this show means so much, because of these conversations that we're having literally after this podcast and tomorrow and then following week and the following week after that. Season 4, I think, will be our first trips outside of Louisiana. After 3 seasons, what I hear almost constantly is we have some of the same things happening where we hunt or live. Here, there. For me, the Chesapeake Bay is one of those spots, like birthplace of American waterfowl hunting, birthplace of America. Some of the oldest decoy carvers, most rich in decoy carvers. There's the waterfowl history in general, not to mention the American history is just so rich between Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. So I see that as a potential. Now, like Louisiana will always have a spot in duck camp dinners. In fact, I don't think we can make a season without going to the floating camp at least once, probably twice. And the way I envision it is probably, start at the floating camp and then say, all right, now we're going to take the crew outside and experience this other world with other experts in their places, similar to what we did within the state in places that we never hunted, Shreveport, Tinsall Parish. We never hunted there, but we used those folks there to really let us see their camp, their culture, their people through their eyes. Now we want to do that in other places. So that's not in stone, but that's my idea. And if I want to see this, if I want to see duck camp dinners grow, to see, going around the country and experiencing and using the ethos and what we learned about duck camp dinners, Louisiana, to incorporate into other territories, regions, states, I think Texas would be an incredible duck camp dinners. Instead of having a region, you'd have a state. And everything from sandhill cranes in the Panhandle to shooting the Rockport 3, what do they call it? The Rockport, it's like the redheads, pintail. Anyways, they like everything in between in that state. You can hunt green timber in the east. And so plus you have all the other pursuits, the secondary and third pursuits that we try to incorporate into the show, which Texas is obviously incredibly rich on. So, that's another target of mine is I'd love to produce a Duck Camp Dinners Texas, and have 1 or 2 in Louisiana, then make that drive to Texas and start in the east and kind of maybe make a circle, then end up in Louisiana, back in Louisiana. I think it'd make a great series. Obviously, has an incredible food history, has an incredible history in the outdoors, has incredible people that want to share their places. And Texans are notoriously proud, right? But not proud in a bad way, but proud of where they're from, their cultural history, the way their grandpappy and relatives lived for all their lives. So I think they're just such good stories all around the country. I love Louisiana. We could go. I was talking to Ramsey Russell about this the other day, and he asked me, where do the stories stop? And I said, well, a lot like the Louisiana mud, it's never ending. We can go all the way down to China with these stories. So, and and God willing, we'll be on 15 seasons of Duck Camp Dinners and better go deeper and deeper and deeper into that mud. But, right now it's all about, clapping, hooray, hooray for season 3. I'm proud of it. I love it. I'm so glad people are enjoying it. But my eyes have already been on to the future and have been for months. And the next 2 months will tell us a lot about if we can do a season 4 or not. Again, we're at the mercy of fundraising in a lot of ways. Maybe one day we can I'm trying to figure out, to be honest with you, to make it a business, to make the show a business enough to where I can invest what is made off of it into next season and actually have to rely less on, brand partnerships. As much as I love them, they're just really hard to come by when you're making a show that's this expensive.
Sure.
So, anyways, it takes the right people to do it. So, but that's where we stand with season 4.
Well, and it's great because every year it seems to be building, and I know that the right pieces are going to come together. It feels like that divinity, it's going to put the right folks in front of you at the right times, and I have full faith and focus on, seeing this grow and watching, you continue to have success with it with all your friends and all the different companies and people you work with, organizations, conservation, everything. I wanted to take a quick little turn too. I know that you've had also some experiences that you've offered as far as like hunting and cooking, where people can come along and be a part of some of these trips, some places you've taken, trips, elsewhere, but then there's some in Louisiana and things too. And I know that there's a couple where there's some spots still left open. If you can kind of talk about that and what it is that you're doing with some of these, experiences that, and how people can join and learn more about that. Is that something they can follow through your website, or is that something they're tracking through maybe your socials? And maybe just talk a little bit about those experiences and opportunities.
Yeah. So, really, this was an experiment this year, and we talked to my buddy Jay Scheck and Ryan Blakely. Both are co-owners of the camp. They really own that floating camp. We're just lucky enough to be friends. We try to contribute in every way I can. This is actually my way of contribution, and obviously they're contributing their space to these folks that are paying for these spots. And we opened up these 4 spots in November as a experiment to see, like, I don't know what people are going to say about this. They may want to be a part of this. They may not. They may laugh in our face when we tell them how much it is. But we believe it's worth it, but because we know the value that we get out of it. Right.
Sure.
So we're hoping people sharing that. And so far the response has been like overwhelming. Like I should hire an assistant for it. But no, you can reach me on my Instagram. There's 2 spots left in December. We opened up 2 more spots, 2 spots left in December and 2 spots left in January. November sold out. And it is a all-inclusive, all-immersive duck camp dinners experience at the floating camp in Terrebonne Parish. So you're going to live like we live for those 2 nights, just like we go on the weekends. And that's sharing a bathroom, in bunk beds, cooking together, cleaning together. Like there's nothing off the table in terms of that. And that's speaking of authenticity, which is a word like they become so buzzwordy that I almost hate using authentic and organic. But speaking of authenticity, people are really looking for that more and more. There's certainly something to the great lodges in North America, duck lodges and whitetail and elk and whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's also something like getting back to how you grew up hunting, which is still how we hunt as 40-year-olds. And I think that's what's really attracting people to this. It is like you are in it with us. You can't hide. You're going to be the butt of the jokes, just like I'm the butt of the jokes many times in these episodes. That is not scripted. That's just how we function. So if you want to be a part of that, hit me up on Instagram. And most of that money is going. So right now we have the camp dry docked so we can do repairs, like get it out of the water and do month-long repairs and update it and so on. So all that obviously takes a whole lot of money to get it towed into the marina, getting it put onto a place where you can dry dock, lifted, worked on it. So a lot of the money that we make on that is going to go right back into the camp and making sure we have that for another generation of hunters that are growing up at our knees right now. And so, and to have a place that we can still film duck camp dinners at, bearing that there's no hurricane going to blow it into the marsh. Sure. So, we're including the hunts, the lodging, obviously, all the food cooked by me and the crew, all your drinks, alcohol, salt drinks, snacks. We even have shells. We have guns you can use. I tell people the only thing you need to do is show up at the marina, have some camo in your bag, and have a duck license and a waterfowl stamp, federal duck stamp. And if you do that, you're good to go because we got everything else covered. And plus I have some of my favorite Louisiana brands pitching in really great gifts to throw in there that those folks can walk away with from and have something they can remember the time by. I mean, honestly, like, somebody the other day, and I told them the price, they said, man, that's like an Argentina hunt. And I said, well, that if you're looking at it that way, then you might be right. But I said, I've been on 2 of those Argentina hunts, and they are awesome. I would pick this camp any day of the week to go to. And like, that's the thing. It's like, it may not look like that to many, but that's how we value it. So, and I think there's a reason to that, but it's a good opportunity because there are friends of ours that don't get invited to this camp because the people that go pitch in, the people that go contribute to the camp, it's not a popularity contest. It's, oh, you came to help pressure wash the roof for 2 weekends in a row in July. You're going to come to opening day. Like, you want to come to opening day? And we got about 9 spots that we can put in that camp hunt. So like, it's to better invite people from the outside in is actually quite, I mean, hate to say it this way, but exclusive, right? Our best friends that we've been growing up with all our lives sometimes don't get invites to this camp.
Sure.
So it'll be fun. It'll be, and you know, because of the popularity of it already, and we'll see how it goes, but I can totally envision something similar happen in Venice, Louisiana in the spring and summer for fishing, or out of Grand Isle, or even, you know, in September where alligator and teal are in season, and we can go to the Henderson Swamp at Cypress Cove and have a camp there and experience that whole West Louisiana thing. And then obviously my mind starts going, well, this is a way that people can experience real Louisiana, and not just what you've seen on shows or movies or whatever. Like, you are going to get smacked in the face with authentic Louisiana more than you could ever even imagine, you know, like, so, and that's the truth, man. Like, there is no doubt about it. There's not an experience in Louisiana that's going to match what we're going to do there at the Duck Camp Dinners experience in November, December, and January.
Well, that's great. Well, I'll have a link for everybody to learn more about that. I highly suggest you guys check that out. I can't really imagine a more fun and enriching time, man. Good food, good culture, good people, you know, the occasional shenanigans. You might even get an interview with Fluff Dog and Jay's new camera. I got to bring that up. Was he begging for this? Was for years, and then you finally threw a camera? I mean, this thing that is amazing, by the way.
I credit Daniel Bagby, the director, and Camera One, really my partner in this. He's really been able to take Duck Camp Dinners and take all of that like raw stuff and put it into a beautiful, digestible, entertaining form. Huge credit to him. He's a genius when it comes to the production and post. Mm-hmm. That was his idea. So Jay's infamous for like picking up cameras that are just laying around and pressing buttons, and sometimes they record and sometimes they don't. And anyways, and it's like always when he's got a little more liquid courage in him than other times, right? And so like there's even more of that hazard going on. And so Daniel didn't even tell me this when we started filming. He just brought it. He was like, I got this little thing, you know, with this big fluffy microphone. And Jay just took it and ran with it, man. All season, he kind of carried that thing around, making sure the batteries were charged. And, you know, you're like asking Daniel for more SD cards because he's filling them up. And like, so it was fun, man. It's, I don't know where, I mean, obviously I know how he got the name Fluff Dog because of the microphone, but like, where does this shit come from with him? I don't know. He's full of things like that. But that's what makes him like, too, like anybody who knows Jay that we grew up with or back in Homo know that that's just him. That is literally him on camera. And it's just funny to see that if like some people just have a knack to being entertaining. Doesn't matter if you're filming it or not. Like we just happen to be like, all right, let's put a camera on you. And he never shied away from that. Actually, you know, it's funny. He's starting to do a little more cooking in the show, and he's a great cook. But cooking on camera and talking about like steps and food and so on, like that's really my thing. But all those guys are such great cooks. I'm like, Jay, like cook something. And so you'll actually, I don't know if his rabbits and turnips are going to probably make the closeout on episode 6, but he cooks this great marsh rabbit and turnip dish in episode 6. And I was like, that's it, like, and he's getting more comfortable talking about, he's really good at the whole unscripted, just like B&J. But he's getting better at those moments where he actually has to like talk about cooking. And if somebody's watching, wants to know, so credit to him. He's really warming up around the camera, in front of and in back of, so to speak.
Well, I've been thoroughly entertained, and it's funny you talk about that too. Some people, they're the same on camera and off. Some people, as soon as that camera clicks on or they step on the stage, they grab the microphone, they are no longer the person they were 5 minutes ago, and they can't do that. They don't know how to kind of transition when you're authentically yourself and you're just like, whatever it is, fun, spastic, whatever, man, it's in, like, you can be the same on and off. It's like, I like that when you really can kind of get a feel for someone. You're like, yeah, that there's no guff there. They're not trying to be someone they're not. They're just being who they are. And you're seeing that with a bunch of your friends and the camaraderie around you guys. It's the same kind of idea of like what it's like when it's buck camp or whatever, when I'm over, with my buddies and stuff too. We're going to get what we're going to get, and it's going to be fun. We're all going to have a good time. We're going to eat some really good food, and you get to share that, and you get to hopefully learn something along the way. And, the Duck Camp Dinners has been, consistently for the last 3 years. And I know going forward, hopefully, like you said, in 15 and beyond, right? It's something that is very educational, entertaining, it's informative. And I really love that you bring that conservational aspect to it. Obviously, the cuisine is top notch. And so, I want to see this for many future years. I look forward to it with great anticipation every year. Man, when's that next episode and when it's dropping each week? So, for those who have not tuned in, you got 4 episodes to go check out right now. You got 2 more coming out. And, I can't wait to see what comes from this and all the success that this will bring and continue to develop for you.
Yeah.
And, when I was thinking about like cuisine aspect too, I can't remember if we touched upon this in the earlier podcast, but, I know a lot of your friends that are chefs who have eventually gone and done a cookbook. Is there an idea for you to have that, or maybe, kind of some type of subscription format or something where maybe you're sharing some of these amazing recipes, something in that form where, people can then kind of get an inside, look at, what you've prepared and how you prepare it. And, I'm just kind of curious if there's something on the horizon that you've been thinking about in that kind of realm.
Yeah, it's a great question. Definitely on the horizon. For those, I know this because I know enough cookbook authors, not like so many like authors like you've interviewed, but a lot of cookbook authors. It's an incredible amount of work to write a book.
Yeah.
And, although I can go on my hard drive right now and probably write 10 books with as many recipes I have, it's just a different process. You don't just hand over those recipes and say, done, good to go. So, there's a little bit of guiltiness on my part because I'm like, God, I'm just so lazy compared to some of these other people.
That's false. That's false. Yeah. I've never equated you and laziness. Let's just cut that.
Well, I tell people, they're like, you need to start a YouTube channel. I have it, whatever. You need to do this and you do that. And like, we all have to decide how to use our time in this life.
Yep.
Period. And for many, that's going to be different from the person that's standing next to you, right? So like, I have my ways I like to use my time. Certainly a cookbook is on the horizon, but I would ask you and your guest this question. Like, should it be a Jean-Paul Bourgeois cookbook or should it be a Duck Camp Dinners cookbook? Or is it somewhat of a hybrid? My worry about the Duck Camp Dinners cookbook is that I can't fund it like for season 4, let's say, right? Or season 5 or 6 or whatever. And cookbooks take, if you are quick with it, 18 months, right? Most of them 2.5 years to get out into the shelves. So like that's really been my hesitation around Duck Camp Dinners cookbook. We have a photographer at every day that we film for that exact reason, to get atmosphere, to get food photos, to get finished photos, just to fold in a cookbook. So I've been planning it for 3 seasons now, but I haven't pulled the trigger. Well, one, I haven't found the right partners, publishing partners. I've had two publishing agents, one in Texas, one in New York, say, we love you, Jean-Paul. We love what you do. We can't get somebody to sign on with a Duck Camp Dinners cookbook. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, there's a certain part of me is like, well, that's you're bad then. You're going to regret that at one point. But, because anyways, my intention is to keep growing my own brand, myself, Duck Camp Dinners, other things I work in. I have no doubt that it will turn into a multimedia options, whether that's YouTube, written, digital, long format, short format, video on demand. We're on Amazon Prime. You can buy Duck Camp Dinner season 1 and 2 on Amazon Prime if you want the full 4K version at your fingertips. So those things will continue to happen. So, I think I would love to write a cookbook. It wasn't until about 3 years ago where I've had this conversation with literary agents for a decade now, but it wasn't until 3 years ago where I said, now I believe in my point of view to write from. Does that make sense? I didn't want to write a book because I had all the information. I wanted to write a book that I had a real point of view to write from and a real lens to write from. And it wasn't until 3 years where I felt the confidence. I wouldn't even say confidence, but just like that vision of that book and of that process, because I'm one of those people that like, I need a subject matter. When I go out and do these private dinners and festivals, they're like, choose whatever you want to cook. And I'm like, that's too many choices. Like, I want to cook so many things. I need you to narrow me down.
Give me a lane. Yeah.
Give me a lane. And so in the last 3 years, I've finally started to see or at least think of what I see my lane developing as or is right now. And before that, 10 years ago, I was just, do I write a book on seafood? Do I write a book on Cajun cooking? Do I write a book on barbecue and grilling? Do I write? There was just so much. I didn't know how to condense it down into 75 to 100 recipes. Like, it was so long answer to your question, but I need to add context because something on the horizon. But with everything that I do, man, it's just so important to me that it's meaningful to me, right? Like, I don't ever want to create anything that I don't feel deeply in my heart and my soul that I need to get out. I think that's part of my success, is that the things that I create, no matter what it is, an Instagram post or Duck Camp Dinners, largely is like deeply intertwined with who I am and the things I care about. And so if it's going to be a book where I'm going to, like, I need it to be something I am all in on and something that speaks to the visceral depths of me. So anyways, it's not, it would have been easy just being like, sure, let's write a book 10 years ago. I wouldn't say easy, but it wouldn't have meant near as much to me as if I would write one now or in the future.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of cookbooks, I know that you've also been a part of one with last year with the turkey book, where you went and did some hunting with Jesse and you got some recipes in there too, which are phenomenal. I've been going through these. Yours is next up. One of my buddies tried yours. I am super stoked, man. This is the time of year too where it's like I'm getting ready for the hunting camp, and as far as getting that together. If you'll just go ahead and share maybe some of the ones that you had contributed with that book, and what was that experience like working with Jesse, and then kind of going out and hunting, and then obviously it was kind of cool for you kind of being in his backyard, and then now you just had him in yours. I thought that was kind of a neat thing, just kind of a 360 to sit back and watch two great guys being able to kind of see each other in different avenues there too. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah. I say this with all seriousness that Jesse Griffiths, from the first time I read that book, right there on your back left shoulder of field, has been a mentor of mine, whether he knew it or not. That book, in a lot of ways, changed my perception about what a chef could be and maybe should be. So getting to hunt with him, getting to know him over the last few years, and obviously hunt with him, then contribute to the turkey book, was a milestone marker in my career as far as I'm concerned. Maybe some people wouldn't say that. I would, though. I took it extremely seriously to write those 2 recipes. So I wanted to share something. I wanted to share 2 recipes that were culturally appropriate and really spoke to who I am as a chef, right? The first one, turkey boudin. I have made boudin out of every piece of meat that's ever come across my cutting board. Not all of them, right? I've never shot a caribou, never had the chance to make caribou boudin, but I know I could. And this turkey was no different. You know, boudin is it's such a darling food of Cajun culture right now. You know, in the past, you saw the jambalayas and the gumbos always take center stage when it comes to Cajun food. Now you're seeing that humble rice sausage called boudin really capturing the hearts and minds of Cajun enthusiasts, whether you're from Louisiana or not. So that was something I wanted to do, and I wanted to share it in my unique way of how I like to consume it and how you can make it no matter what your pursuit is. It's truly one of those things that, you know, if you have a leg or 2 of turkey, you can make a lot of boudin from that. And it goes on, man, like whether squirrel, rabbit. I have a rabbit. No, I almost wrote a rabbit boudin recipe from the Meat Eater cookbook, the most recent one that came out. I put another recipe instead, but I've really made it with every animal that I can. And that's for a lot of reasons. I'm a big believer in the effectiveness, the resourcefulness of Cajun food, being able to take, like, you know, these little section of protein here and then expand it into like a meal, right? Boudin has a good representation of that. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking about, you know, this is the other side of me, right? The other side is the crawfish boiled turkey necks, right? So that's not uncommon, especially in the African-American culture in Louisiana, to boil turkey necks with your crawfish or your crab or your shrimp. And they're delicious. I love them. I wanted to take that idea, especially in the spring. That's when crawfish season is at its peak. That's when turkey's at its peak. So those two, from that perspective, as it grows together, it goes together. Bringing those in together through a while. But then I incorporated just my love for Szechuan food into that recipe by, you know, using the mala ideas of hot and spicy. So, well, spicy being what we all know is spicy, and then the tingle from Szechuan. That's where we get that word mala from. And you, living in Katy, have seen that kind of culture really take hold in that part of Texas big time. Yeah. That's something I'm well aware of, and I just love Szechuan food. And so I took that opportunity to do, you know, Szechuan crawfish and turkey necks, but using that idea of the boiling pot from Louisiana and kind of marrying the two there. And that was my 2 recipes. And I thought, you know, those 2 spoke to really one of like this really sincere appreciation for the food history and culture of Louisiana, but also this progressive ideology I have towards where the food culture can go. And in the middle is me, right? And those 2 dishes are kind of like the good and on both shoulders. In the middle is just this beautiful face. So, you know, that's where those recipes came from. And you know, Chef, I had kind of gone through a couple of them with him. And then when I told him, I was like, I have this idea for turkey necks and crawfish. And when I told him, he was like, that's genius, man. I love it. And he and I have just, I didn't know this for a long time because I'd followed him from afar. But it turns out, you know, we have a lot in common in terms of how we cook and the method in which we cook, and how we want to bring our food into the world, introduce new people to wild game and to hunting through food. So, you know, and I don't consider Chef, I call him Chef. I don't consider Jesse to be a wild game cook, or wild game chef. I consider him to be a chef. Like this is what I'm saying what I believe about myself as well here. I consider him to be a chef of cooking the things that are around him, of using the things that are around him. And it just so happens he lives in Central Texas, where he has a lot of wild game around him, a lot of great Texas produce, a lot of great Texas wine, a lot of great Texas this and that. And so he's a Texas chef, but he's doing what every great chef has done throughout the history of culinary arts, and that's using what's around him to make the food that he cares about, right? Like, and he's done a great job of that. We share in that vision, and honestly, like, I'm just really thankful to call him a friend, to be able to text him at any time to get advice, to share advice. And he's been great, man. He's been great. I shot my first Rio turkey with Jesse. So it's awesome.
Well, it's a lot of fun to hear about, the hunt in his book. Seeing, I think it's really great too. Like, you and others that were a part of that book have kind of a regional taste in, for what their recipes are, kind of give you a really good idea there. It was really neat to see him come back on episode 3, or come to the duck camp and be a part of that, and kind of just see, how you guys have collaborated together over the last year, 2 years. It's been fun to kind of see, as I know, both of you a little bit. And, when I was thinking about like that idea of, what it is that, when you're saying kind of cooking what's around you, I feel like Duck Camp Dinners does such a good job. Cause it's not just ducks. You guys I've seen, rabbits, you mentioned hog, deer, gator. There's so many things that are so rich around Louisiana and wild game. And, and then also the things you're building your recipes with, like you said, produce and different things there too. There's a lot that you're going around locally picking up, crawfish, of course, and fish that you guys have. And you really give a good, I think, representation of the diversity of wildlife. And I really love to see how different things are cooked and consumed and put together and paired. So it's really fun for that too. Do not watch this show on an empty stomach, because that's the only thing I can say. That's the only warning. It is, man, it's dangerous. I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, gosh, I need to go over to Louisiana and get some real quality gumbo here, or it's amazing, man. You guys did such a good job this season, and I can't wait for the next 2 episodes. Is there anything that you'd like to share to people who have been supporting you, fans of Duck Camp Dinners, and kind of what it is that, these last few seasons, and, what is it that you'd like to maybe share, as far as what it means to you to hear all this amazing feedback and the desire for people to want you to continue for, future years on. You got a big, group that supports you and what you're putting out there. And I just wanted to see if you had any message for them.
Yeah. My first thing I want to say before I kind of close all that out, because I do have a message that, and I've kind of shared a little bit of that message prior in this conversation. But if you're interested in, Cajun cooking, like kind of stand and stir technical stuff, it's not going to have, it's going to be entertaining for what it is. But if you're really interested in some recipes, some really tangible recipes, go check out the Louisiana Cooking YouTube page. I'm the editor at large for Louisiana Cooking. I do some writing for them. I do some recipe stuff for them. And I create, a little bit of a cooking show, if you will. It's really meant for folks who are really interested in really authentic Mama style Cajun food that it's kind of hard to find in, popular cookbooks or whatever. It's stuff that I grew up eating and cooking and seeing others eat and cook that are kind of fly underneath the radar. So check that out if you're interested in really that specific niche of Louisiana cooking, Cajun cooking. As far as Duck Camp Dinners goes, man, like there's no hiding that the show is my baby. The show is something that I've been nurturing for 5 years now, trying to grow. And I'll just say it again. One is thank you to everyone who has watched this show. Thank you to everyone who's commented, shared, and thumbs up, or wrote to people like Waypoint, which we get quite a bit, wrote to me, have shared it with their friends. Like, I can't tell you enough how much your involvement into this show matters for its longevity and its future, period. For those who have never watched it before, welcome. Thank you. go ahead and tune in. I hope you love it. I think there is something for everyone there. We've shot this show with the intention that a 35-year-old female from Central California who's never held a gun could watch it and be entertained and get something from it. In the same breath, that lifelong duck hunter who grew up in West Louisiana hunting rice fields and saltwater marshes get something out of it. And I really do believe that, to call it a cooking show is a disservice to it. To call it a hunting show it's really a cultural show about this place, and it I think fills a lot of buckets and touches a lot of lives no matter where you're from. So thank you and welcome to the community of Duck Camp Dinners. But really, it's really a heartfelt message of thanks and gratitude for those who are supported, those who watched it over and over and over again, who come back to it and sit on their couch with their family and watch it. Not just new episodes, but old episodes. It's an incredible. I've been inundated over the last 5 years, and every year when we launch these episodes, I get inundated over a new wave of inundation, and seeing people that are attaching themselves to this show, whether they're duck hunters, whether they live in Louisiana, whether they live in Germany, South America. I mean, I hear from all over the place that see themselves in this show. So again, thank y'all for being a part of it. I want to keep making it, but it does not happen without people like y'all watching it and sharing it, especially with new people. So I appreciate y'all doing that. And lastly, George, thank you. But seriously, thank you, because you've given me an opportunity and a platform to speak from about something that I really deeply care about. And it's not just about the show. It's about the state of Louisiana. It's about its culture. It's about its language. It's about its food. It's about its music. This platform, along with every other platform that has had me to talk about this show, gives me the opportunity to share that with new people and to reinforce this idea that, we should be proud no matter where you're from about American culture. And I often say, like, Louisiana Cajun culture, it doesn't just belong to the state, it belongs to the country. And I can say the same about Texas, and I can say the same about the Pacific Northwest. I can say about in a lot of different places that have these very distinct ways of living, hunting, eating, listening, and be able to amplify that and glorify that through different shows and different pieces of content for America. Like, our conservation problem, our marsh problem is not a Louisiana problem alone. It is a America problem. It is a United States problem, something we got to fix. But we also got to shine a light on all the great things that are happening in all these places, and the movers and shakers that are moving the needle in these places. They deserve it. And again, just wherever you're from, thank you for that. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you, George, for having me.
Man, it is my pleasure. Anytime you want to come on, I love talking with you. I love hearing your passion, your heart, all the things that you're talking about and that you're supporting and that you're trying to help share and, kind of be a conduit for all this information, conservation, education, awareness, amazing cultures. And our heritage and as Americans. And I just love it, man. I love what you got going on. For anyone who wants to follow, who maybe hasn't already tuned in, can you give your website, your socials, and where they can tune in to see Duck Camp Dinners Season 3 right now?
Yeah, you can always follow me at Chef Jean, JEAN_Paul on Instagram. I try to be as communicative as possible when it comes to direct message. So you got any questions, comments, concerns, you want to share something, shoot me a message. You can always follow Duck Camp Dinners. There's always updates on the show, different shorts, different little pieces of content that are fun and entertaining. Of course, you can catch it on Waypoint TV at 7 p.m. Eastern every Sunday. It'll also launch on demand around the same time. So if you want to, pause, rewind, fast forward, that's a good spot to view it. The following day, if you're a YouTube person, you can catch it on Split Read's YouTube channel at 10 a.m. Eastern every Monday. Now, that's for two more episodes here. But, the distribution channels are growing for Duck Camp Dinners. It's my goal to get it in as many American homes as possible whether that's linear, broadcast, video on demand, fast channels, YouTube, international plays. I'm working on it all because it's important to me that people see this lifestyle, this culture, this group of friends, and hopefully we can do more of these seasons and share other people's cultures, group of friends. But first, it starts with season 3 and the upcoming season 4. And so all of y'all watch, appreciate y'all tuning in, checking out my Instagram and all those different areas to consume and to take in Duck Camp Dinner season 1, 2, and 3.
Wonderful. Well, I'll have all the links down below. Make sure you guys check out the show notes, follow those links, subscribe, follow all the things that Jean-Paul's got going on Duck Camp Dinners, and can't wait to see what's on the horizon. It's been an honor and a privilege once again to sit down with you, and I thank you, and we'll be praying for you and your family, and all of the amazing things are about to happen. Another addition to your wonderful, beautiful family, man. Congratulations on all your successes, and just so happy you got to join me today. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you, George. I appreciate it, man.
Cheers. You're welcome. Talk to you soon, man.